It's not even the rain that gets you. There's five things that if you can't take, if you can't handle, you really shouldn't move here. And in this video, we're gonna get right into it. So I thought I'd do a little walk and talk here. We're in Loyal Heights right now, but the 5 things, obviously the rain's one of them, but the 5 things that I wanted to go over, I mean, you're gonna be surprised. Like, if you look behind me, you know, like, that's not overcast. Normally that's the thing that crushes spirits in Seattle. If you're thinking about making a move out into the Seattle area and you're not used to kind of this overcast that we normally get out here, you know, it doesn't rain as much in Seattle as it does in, say, New York. You know, you can Google it. There's a handful of other places that get more rain than Seattle. But the thing that everybody talks about is, does it rain all the time? Like, does it rain all the time? How do you stand it? And it doesn't really rain all the time, but typically this time of year, and this is what's funny about making this video now and the reason I wanted to shoot it, but typically, you know, because it's October, right? I got my puffy jacket on. It usually just clouds up. And so the real, you know, the number one thing, most people are talking about rain, but that's not what that's not what drives people crazy and drives them to, you know, drink 3 or 4 Starbucks a day or whatever your pick me up is. But it's the overcast. Like, well, there's a ton of overcast, and what happens is that marine layer comes in, because we're surrounded by water. We got Puget Sound, Lake Union, Lake Washington, right? So surrounded by all that, and then because of the water and because of the, you know, Seattle's a bunch of, you know, it's really hilly, and then we've got mountains on both sides. It just socks in, and so you get this crazy amount of overcast from basically, you know, October. We always joke that the rain starts October 31st, and then all the way through July. You know, the 5th of July is when it stops raining, right after the 4th, and that's kind of the funny joke. Okay, so then you've got, you know, that high cloud marine layer that, you know, I'm even wearing sunglasses. I call it migraine gray because it can be bright, but there's no blue in the sky. And so, you know, sometimes you see some blue sky and it's a sucker hole, right? It's like it's teasing you. It's not real. It's gonna go away. But that's October through July, and then in June, May and June, sometimes we get these, you know, opens up and it's really nice, and you get, you know, maybe a couple of days, and it's like a tease in May, and it's like, oh, it's a teaser, and then June comes, and we call it January because it feels like January. All of a sudden the rain just starts pouring again, temperatures drop, and it's like, man, what is going on? But it seems to happen every year in June, and that seems, you know, I've helped people move up from California. They call it June gloom. We just call it January. It's gray and rainy, and you think that it should be spring, and it's not. It's or even summer, you know, but it's not yet. So that's like the big thing. Like rain, not so much. High overcast and clouds, you bet. And it is, for a lot of people, can be suffocating. There's been people that have moved up and immediately they just can't make it a winter, right? And so that's one thing. If you're thinking about making a move out here, if you're, you know, if maybe I was just visiting my grandpa on the East Coast in New Jersey, and granted it's October, but it was blue sky, and when it rained, the rain came and went. It didn't stick around like it does here, and so it's very different, you know, in that regard. And so that's a big deal to a lot of people. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think about is that if you expect to have seasons, all 4 of them, don't really get that here. The cool thing about Seattle is its placement in the Puget Sound and access to mountains, Stevens Pass, Crystal Mountain, Mount Rainier, and places to ski and snowboard, get out to Mount Baker and get yourself into some snow. So if you want snow, you can just drive there. We really just get snow, you know, around Valentine's Day and President's Day. That's when we see snow. Maybe a little bit here and there. Every once in a while we'll get one of those big snows in December, but typically we just get it for like a week. And traditionally we see that in February. That's typically when we see our big snowfalls. But sometimes you'll have a white Christmas or something like that, but it's not super often, right? More consistent is that February snow. So you get, you know, 6-8 months of gray, then you get 2-3 months of beautiful weather, and then some kind of a mix. So it's more like 2.5 seasons, in my opinion, because you just got high cloud, right? I mean, like, there's not blue sky up there. That's just, well, I'll tell you what it is. So you've got the, I wanted to come, I'm actually walking to the Sunset Hill Outlook Park because I wanted to see what you could see, because typically you can see the Cascades from here, and you could barely see Shilshole down below the marina, which is crazy. Couldn't see anything from the park there. Hopefully we'll cut that in nice. But okay, so the high cloud, right? The rain isn't really the thing, but it does rain a lot. Really what gets people is that high overcast marine layer that socks in for, you know, October to July, right? That's kind of the running joke is October 31st it starts raining, July 5th it clears up, which gives you, you know, July, August, September, October for, you know, your clear months. But that's not really the case anymore because, you know, if you're like me, Kara and I, we do a lot of hiking, Kara especially, but that's kind of our, you know, that's what's beautiful about coming to the Pacific Northwest is access to the mountains and getting out and hiking and backpacking and, you know, access to the water and all this stuff. That's what we're into. And so what ends up happening though is that, and here's what this is all about. This is why I wanted to make this video. Is because this is smoke. August, we put on the calendar is smoke season. Now we had a late spring, really late spring. June was particularly gloomy, even July, before things opened up and got nice. And so, you know, it kind of pushed everything. So we didn't get August smoke like we normally do. It started in September. Now there's a nasty fire burning right kind of in the foothills on Highway 2 out by us, the Bolt Creek fire, and it is just putting out tons and tons of smoke. Like, it is scratchy in the throat. If you've seen anybody walking in the background wearing masks, I'm not sure they're wearing those masks because of COVID. I think they're wearing them because it's awful with the smoke. But we traditionally will take a look at the calendar and we'll say, okay, smoke season, August. Let's have a couple alternatives. So if it's smoky in the Cascades, maybe we'll go to the Olympics. If something's going on in the Olympics, maybe we'll go to the ocean, right? We'll have a couple different alternatives so that we can still get outside and enjoy what we're seeing, you know, what we're doing. But we always got to play it by ear because it's so smoky. Now this year in particular, it's late October right now, and it is awful. Like, this is the worst, some of the worst I've seen. Last few years have been like this though. So you get, you know, July, maybe you'll get out in May in one of those openings. June is kind of a wash. Then you get out in July, you know, August, you got to be cognizant of the smoke season. September usually is beautiful. And then October is when things start to flip. So, you know, that's why I say we've really got like 2.5 seasons. We've got a short window, especially if you love going outside. If you're, you know, hiking and biking, climbing, that sort of thing. You only really have a limited amount time in the summer to get out and make that stuff happen. And so it can be really, really difficult at best to get out and feel good about, you know, hey, did I get in as many hikes or climbs, or did I, you know, get all the summits I was trying to get in the summertime, because that window is so short. You know, you've got to, hopefully you got some puffies and some other stuff, and get out in some shoulder seasons, shoulder seasons, and make stuff happen. That's really the only way that you're gonna be able to get a full year of hiking and climbing and backpacking in. It's just the way that it is. And so those are the 5 things that I think about. You know, if you're not prepared for you know, rain, it's not as bad as some places, but it happens. If you're not prepared for that high overcast, it's really gonna get you. If you're not prepared, you know, you're not wishing and hoping for a lot of snow. Like, we don't get a lot of snow. If you want multiple seasons, you're just not gonna get it. If you're not prepared for kind of a short summer, short weather window, it's not, maybe this isn't the right spot for you, unless you're able to travel, you know, get yourself, you know, moving around, get yourself east of the Cascades, where it's a little, you know, might get a little sunnier earlier. And then that last one, like this is, like, you saw it, the smoke here, it is just coming in, and it's becoming so normal. It's because there's fires in California, the wind brings the smoke up. There's fires in Oregon, the wind brings the smoke up. There's fires sometimes in Idaho, the wind brings the smoke over. Fires in Canada, Vancouver, BC, the wind brings the smoke down. And then we have our own fires too. And so we end up being, you know, weather-wise, when we talk about those big snowfalls, those wind patterns, because of the Puget Sound, end up being what's called a convergent zone, which is just north of Seattle and Everett and Linwood. It can really get nailed with snow in that convergent zone, where, you know, the wind patterns create it just dumps. But because of that, you know, I believe, I'm no meteorologist, but because of that, I think we get socked in with this smoke more and more. So I appreciate you sticking with me. Hopefully you got some good value out of that video and some details and information. If you're curious about more, you want to reach out, have a conversation, just hit me up. Always glad to chat. And hopefully that's not too much of a bummer or a downer if you're planning on moving, but you better be well prepared, right? So always glad to connect, and we'll see you in the next video. Talk to you.